This is my tribute to Martin Luther King Jr. Courageous. This is the word that sums up Martin Luther King Jr.'s life. MLK was one of the great leaders of his time. He was a man that could not be torn down by others, but would use their hatred to fuel his fire. MLK is one of the most important people in American history. He proved to the world that he was more than just an African American who would take punishment from other racial groups. According to the Harvard Gazette, MLK was one of the first African American civil rights activists in the movement of 1955 to 1968. Martin Luther King Jr. was known for his empowering speeches about civil rights and racism. We will discuss the important things he did in his life to contribute to society. We will also consider the impact he still has on today's society. And finally, we will discuss his legacy. Martin Luther King was a man whose gift, I believe, was to help society become equal and one. His first breakout speech was on the Alabama bus boycott. This is where King put a new energy into the civil rights movement in Alabama. He encouraged people to walk and not use the segregated bus lines to show that African Americans were tired of being treated poorly. At this point, early in his life, King became more than a leader, but a voice for all African Americans in the South. His voice empowered African Americans to stand up to the so-called leaders in society, but there were setbacks in his movement due to the violence sparking up against protesters. In February 1960, MLK encouraged students to continue their sit-in movement in Greensboro, North Carolina. By doing this, King was encouraging nonviolent protests to keep people safe. MLK will be in our everyday lives, whether we realize it or not. Our world would be a completely different place today if it weren't for his desire for equal rights. He is the reason that all races of people can go to school together. I know for a fact, if Martin Luther King didn't lead the civil rights movement, I wouldn't have half the friends I do today. The fact that Martin Luther King was so brave, I think inspires people to voice their opinion and speak up more in today's society. Although Martin Luther King seemed to be invincible, his life was cut all too short. On April 4th, 1968, Martin Luther King was assassinated on the balcony of his motel room in Memphis, Tennessee. There was a 2-month-long manhunt for the shooter named James Earl Ray. Although Martin Luther King Jr. is deceased, his legacy will live on forever. His impact on the world left us with an unforgettable memory of who fought for equal rights. Due to his relentless fight against racism and equal rights, there is a monument at Independence Mall in Washington, D.C. in his memory. Martin Luther King Jr. will always be remembered as a courageous man who fought for what was right. In my opinion, he was not known for his speaking, but for his leadership to others. MLK's seismic impact has left the most widely known African American of his time period. He was not only a good man, but a great leader.